Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Harebrained Games, the Week in Games. This is an exciting week in our household. It is graduation week. My second daughter is graduating, and big congrats to Breezy for doing so. She has been my academic incarnate. 4.0 student, just really smart kid. No interest in board games, but that's okay. It's not for everyone. But that's what's new around here. What's new for you guys? Well, tell me in the comments. I think we should get on to the news. Alright, so with all that's going on, I still manage to keep track of the important things like what's new in gaming. And so the big three this week for news are a new Kickstarter for Company of Heroes. Now, the PC game Company of Heroes was a pretty big hit and a very interesting real-time tactical game that has been out for many years. Very popular. It is now a strategy game available on Kickstarter from I kind of think I did research who did it, and I don't know that they've done a ton. But anyway, the interesting things here is that one, it's topping out, and it's very high price components, high quality components. It looks to be an interesting sort of recreation. It seems sort of true to the board game as far as how it plays out. But more interestingly, it has a real time and turn based option to it, and that's interesting. I don't know. The real-time aspect would be of keen interest to me just because of the quirkiness of it, the idea of playing it in real time. There aren't too many real-time games that stick around much. I usually like them for a bit, but they don't stick around much as far as being able to get people to play them because it gets really stressful. Captain Sonar being probably the most stressful experience that I've ever seen 8 people have. And it's about $100. So if you're interested in that, I'm on the fence about it. I think it'd be cool, but then again, I also think having all the money in the world would be cool, and that hasn't happened either. So your choice. Next, we have Alter Quest. Now, Alter Quest, despite its unassuming name, is from the guys who did Street Masters and Brook City. And they've done, I mean, those have been greatly acclaimed. Again, I haven't bought them because of the high price point and having to make trade-offs, but if any of you guys have played those, I'd be very curious of your thoughts. I'm thinking about jumping into this one, but it appears to be more the fantasy adventure dungeon crawling kind of thing, and I tend to like those a lot. So, and finally, Imperial Settlers was a game that came out a few years ago that I found both interesting and nominally compelling. But now there's a roll and write version of the game, which looks a little intriguing, low cost, so I'll probably make the plunge on that one. I'm not really a big fan of roll and writes in general. I don't know why. They seem on paper to have some possibilities of interest. They just haven't kept my interest. So Castles of Burgundy, the dice game, is probably the only one that I've really found the threat above the threshold of meh. But other people like them. They like the roll and writes. I haven't, to be honest, tried some of the new lines, since it seems to be kind of all the rage. The Welcome to and all those others. The whatever that German one that's named funny things. But I can be fooled. Anyway, or I can be compelled as well as fooled. I can be convinced even. So with that, let's get to my question of the week. Okay, with graduation coming around, some people have been joking like, hey, what board games are you going to bring to the graduation party, huh? It kind of got me thinking of, do I actually have any good games that deal with the topic of school or that sort of thing? And so I went back through my list in my collection and realized that I really don't. That there are a couple that I play that are interesting, but in general, that seems to be a very untapped theme for board gaming. For example, I believe in the mid 2000s, actually no, 2010, 12, there was a video game high school. Was probably the one that felt like it was the best fleshed out game, where you are video game developers making video games using it as a board game. It was sort of worker placement and worker placement. It wasn't really point gathering because you're basically trying to go from rank 50 to rank 1 because that makes sense in the video game world. But that was one that I think is probably the only one. There's a couple in the mid 2000s that were a little, I think they were more dealing with sort of the debaucherous and meanness kind of aspects of school, and so I never really dealt with those. There was one Kickstarter last year that failed that I felt really bad about, called Kicking Class, which I thought was probably the most. It was ingenious enough that I thought it was worth a shot, but apparently I was, well, one of a few. But anyway, yeah, that's my question of the week. Is no, I'm not going to bring any games to graduation because that's not what it's for. But if you are interested in a like a game kind of thing, probably the best one is Video Game High School. Not awesome, but definitely, it was good for its time. And with that, let's get to my 3 games of the week. Game number 1, Maiden's Quest. Maiden's Quest is a generally solo game, but you can play it cooperatively and you can play it competitively, and it takes a small amount of space. You could actually play this. It's meant to be played in your hand. I have played it a bit. The manual, the rules were a little dodgy, but I did get through to it and I did feel it was compelling, so that's one that I think should be mentioned. The next one is, I just got this Space Base. I'm told it was the Machikoro Killer, that it has some things that just blow Machikoro out of the water. And I played it, and I think that it definitely is. It definitely is okay. I think I'll play it with a few more people before I give any sort of review on it, but I will probably end up reviewing it. And finally, Blast from the Past. A couple years ago, I picked this up on a mega deal sale. Besieged. This is a tower defense kind of game where you are literally inside a castle, and it's your job, up to 1 to 6 players, to take heroes and keep the hordes, and there are many, many hordes, at bay, because once they hit your walls, the game is over. So it looks to be a tight, tense game. I think it was just in my queue for so while, and then I just, on a whim, just saw it and thought, I should probably pull that out and start playing it. So, Besieged. I don't know what it went for now. It was like $15 when I bought it, but I'm sure it's up a little higher now. So, anyway, and let's get to my final segment. Is Tim full of crap? Okay. The next game that I rated, going alphabetically, and we're still in the numbers, we haven't even got to A yet, is Seven Wonders. Now, I didn't realize Seven Wonders is almost 10 years old. That boggles me. It doesn't seem like it's been 10 years since Seven Wonders came out. That just surprised the heck out of me. I still play it. I still pull it out. I rated it a 10. I really, really adored it. It is one of the few games that you could play 7 people in about the same time that it takes to do it with 4 or 5. And in fact, it's best with 5 or 6 or 7. It's a rare gem of mine that actually does that, because most of the time I prefer games that have a smaller player count. This one was just, yeah, it was probably Antoine Boz's best. I don't think I've played any of his games since that I've enjoyed as much. Maybe Ghost Stories might be in that realm too, but it was way too difficult for most people. But would I rate it a 10 now? I'm probably slightly full of it. I'd probably rank it down at 9.5. I mean, there were things about the game that were a little quirky, but I still think it has a place in my Hall of Fame of games that not only they're like gamer starters, like Dominion and Splendor, and even back in the Catan days. These are gamer starters. These are games that once someone plays it, their eyes open, and it's like, yes, that is the kind of game that I want to play too. I've gotten more people on board with gaming from that game over different Bible camps and summer camps, and just taking it to places and family events. Yeah, so I would still rank it up as 9. It's definitely still a great game in my opinion, even with Seven Wonders Duel that came out since then, which I ranked, I think, a 7, because while it was interesting, it wasn't as interesting to me as Seven Wonders. But there you go. That is this week's segment. I thank you all for joining me, and we will see you next time on Harebrained Games.